Welcome back, listeners, to a brand new episode of The New Standard. And you're checking out the program on November 13th, 2024. That's right. It is Ravens week, and we will be breaking down the big divisional showdown in the AFC North between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. As always, if you want to participate in the program, hit us with a like and a subscribe. And also, we will be putting the podcast out. I want to apologize for not putting out the podcast out last weekend for the victory over the Washington Commanders. And so maybe we'll bring that show out a little bit late. We broke down some things on the show there. One thing we do on the show before we jump right into it is we like to talk about a couple of numbers from the last game. And we'd like to talk about some comments that Mike Tomlin makes in his press conference. Let's jump into the last game, which was an outstanding victory against the Washington Commanders. In fact, in that game, I think I'm on board. That victory on the road particularly made me get on board. I'm on board that on any given day, I think this football team can compete and beat anybody in the National Football League. And unlike other Steeler teams, I think they will beat most teams as well, meaning not lose to most teams. Past Tomlin teams, probably over the last 5 years, you might have thought that they had an opportunity to beat everybody, but you kind of thought they could lose to everybody as well. I don't think this is a team that's going to lose and have those type Tomlin games. Now, you might say the loss of the Dallas Cowboys was one of those games where the Steelers lose to an opponent that isn't as good as they are. But at that point, you still had Justin Fields starting and you still had the offense growing. And it's not the same team that you see right now. Right now, this is a much better team. And I would dare to say, if I were to lay points, I would say a Russell Wilson quarterback team would be 3.5 point favorites to beat a Justin Fields quarterback team. And that's going to be a true or false that I put on my TikTok. True or false? Would a Justin Fields quarterback Steeler team beat a Russell Wilson quarterback Steeler team? True or false? If you have an opinion on that, hit me with that. But the thing in that game that made me a believer was the 9-play, 70-yard drive after the Commanders went up 10. That Russell Wilson and his veteran self, that offense came back and responded to that moment immediately. Came back, put points on the board, and made that a close game. Whereas if Justin Fields is starting in that game, they probably lose that game. They probably can't come back. And when you're a football team that can come back from 10 down on the road against a team that's first in their division, to me, that says everything about what you are as a football team. It says you're a team that can truly compete. It says you're a gritty team, and it shows you're a hardened team. You're a mentally tough team that can respond to adverse situations, and that's one of the one of the advantages of Mike Tomlin teams, and the fact that they play so many close games and they grind out so many victories is that, as he says often, they have a don't blink mentality. And so they go into every game with that, and that they don't fold. They're mentally tough. What's up to my guy, young boy 2-4? What's happening? So that characteristic, you see that all the time in Tomlin teams. It doesn't mean you're going to win every game, but it means for the most part, you're not going to beat yourself. And that's what great coaches always say. The first thing that you have to do in becoming a quality football team or a good football team is you have to learn how to not beat yourself. You have to do that first. You have to master that quality. And that's one of the numbers that jumped up this year. When you're looking at the Steeler team, they only have 2 interceptions this year. They've only thrown for 2 interceptions, and I think they're a +9 or a +10 in turnovers. That is a sign of a team that does not beat itself. Some other numbers from the game against the Commanders that stood out to me was the time of possession, where the Steelers had the ball 36 minutes and 11 seconds to the Washington Commanders 23-49. And that's about a quarter's difference. You're not going to see that in too many games. And the Steelers also ran, I think, about close to 20 more plays. So having the ball for more of a quarter is significant. And you could tell in the game by watching it that part of the emphasis of the offensive game plan, because they also ran the ball about 40 times in the game, they wanted to possess the ball so an explosive offense like Washington wouldn't have a ton of opportunity to make some hay on the offensive side of the ball, because you could keep that high potent offense on the sideline that played well enough in spurts to still get 27 points, and they only had the ball 23 minutes. Imagine what it could have been had they possessed the ball closer to 30 minutes. So that was part of the game plan, I think, in that game. Another number that jumped out from that game was the number 0. This is the first game this year where Boswell has not made a field goal. Well, Chris Boswell has not been key to the outcome of a game. And that just shows you. And another big number from the last 3 games is that under Russell Wilson, they are averaging about 30 points a game, close to 31 points per game. So we can see that if you have a feeling, it's justified. It is justified to have a feeling. If you're feeling frisky, and like Steelers Freak says, this weekend is the real test. And happy Veterans Day to you, Steeler Freak, if that is you in that picture. If you're feeling frisky, they've done enough for you to feel frisky. Because I'm feeling frisky. I mean, shit, if I'm feeling frisky, you should be frisky. I mean, quiet as kept, in the world of Steelerness or Steelerdom, I've been known to be a pessimistic guy. But I'm even optimistic about this team. And that 9-play, 70-yard drive really kind of flipped the switch for me. That even if they lost that game against the Commanders, because I thought that fumble call at the goal line was garbage. But I thought that the Commanders did convert with the pass to Zach Ertz. Had they lost that game, I still saw enough in that contest to convince me this is a team that can compete, because I don't even think they're close to reaching their ceiling in the run game and with Russell Wilson in the passing game. I still think there is a lot of meat on the bone when it comes to this Steeler offense. So those were some of the things that I wanted to jump into from the last one. And I also wanted to jump into, before we break down the game, I wanted to jump into a couple of comments from Mike Tomlin from his press conference. I'll bring those up right now, and I'll just read these off. Mike Tomlin wanted to point out in his press conference Derrick Henry, but listen to some of the things he said. That Henry leads the NFL in rushing with 1,120 yards. Jackson leads the league in passer rating with 123.2. And I don't know how many times that has happened, but Tomlin was key to point that out. That is a rare combination. And if we have any stat geeks out there or stat freaks out there, please put it in the chat. If you know the last time there's been an NFL team that has had a quarterback number 1 in passer rating along with the number 1 rusher, please let me know. Thomas said, I just respect what Lamar is capable of doing. I see continual evolution in him. And I've seen that since they drafted him. There's always a component of his game that's moving forward. And I just think it speaks to not only his talent, but to his approach because of their approach to business. He's got a unique skill set, and he and they always appear to be evolving in terms of maximizing that skill set. And I have a lot of respect for it. They're a significant team. And some other stats on the offensive side of football that jump out to you or jump out to me, it should jump out to you. Lamar Jackson is second in passing yards. Joe Burrow. And that's another quarterback the Steelers are going to have to conquer this year if they want to get to where they want to go. And they're averaging 31. I'm just going to round up 32 points a game and a league high 440 yards. But the one thing that Mike Tomlin does well, and again, you're checking out the new standard, put up or shut up time, the Steelers versus Ravens post game. Make sure you hit me with a like and subscribe. Big up to everybody out there that's listening to the program and who shares and participates in the program. Mike Tomlin is 3-1. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Mike Tomlin is 3-1 against Lamar Jackson. He has a unique way of making the game very ugly against the Ravens. And I've been going back and forth in my mind. What type of game are we going to see? Give me your thoughts on what type of game we're going to see in the chat. Are we going to see more of a high scoring game, or are we going to see the typical Steeler versus Ravens slog that's 15-10, 16-13, 17-13, low scoring, field goal late decides it. Boswell scores and kicks 3 field goals to be the real difference in the game. Are we going to see a slog? Or are we going to see a high scoring game where both defenses don't really have a lot of a lot of a chance to compete in this game? So it's going to be interesting from that perspective. I'm not sure what we're going to see. I've been going back and forth, been watching a ton of Ravens. That offense is ridiculous. I mean, that offense is ridiculous. It is humming, and Lamar Jackson is playing the best football of any quarterback in the National Football League. Right now, I think he is absolutely should be the MVP again. Steeler Freak chimed in instead. The Steelers should blitz to keep Jackson off balance. I think it could go either way, high or low score. And I agree. I think it could go high or low. I'm kind of mixed. I'm kind of even. But not trying to be a hater, I do believe that the Ravens should be a 3 to 3.5 point favorite going into Accra Shore, Accra Heinz Field, just because they have been that dominant and they are that good on offense. I mean, they're number one in offense in almost every regular metric, in almost every advanced metric. I mean, DVOA, rush success rate, EPA, PFF grades. I mean, this is a tremendous offense. This offense and the Lions offense are the two best offenses in football. They hum. They are efficient. They get it done. But I think where this game is going to really hinge is, and big up to a new listener here, big up to Eric B. Daly. Let me check out Eric's comment here. He said, no, Russell Wilson would win of our two quarterbacks. 15-2 is my call. Okay, that was to the true or false. Which team would beat the other? A Justin Fields quarterback Steeler team or a Russell Wilson quarterback team? Which team would win? I think the key to this game is going to hinge on the running game. I think whichever team can run it more in terms of number of carries, as well as whichever team can run it successfully. Because when you look at Baltimore on the defensive side of football, it's a tale of two sides of the ball, or it's a tale of or two phases. When you're talking about pass defense and run defense, they are a very good run defense, and I'm not certain that this is a strength versus strength matchup where you could say that the Steelers' running game is elite going up against an elite run defense. I think in this game, you're going up against it's an average run game in the Steelers going up against an elite run defense in the Ravens. The Ravens right now, in terms of run DVOA, they rank fourth. Rushing success rate, they rank second. Rush EPA, they rank second. PFF grade in terms of rush defense, they rank first. It's going to be very tough for the Steelers, I think, to run the ball successfully against the Ravens. But I think they need to run the ball against the Ravens because I don't think the way that offensive line is pass protecting, it would be wise to put that line in that predicament where if the Steelers get off schedule, they have to consistently pass protect in obvious passing situations. I think that's a recipe for disaster for this particular offensive line. It is young, it is growing, but in a big spot against the Ravens, I don't think you want to put them into that predicament. So I think it's critical for the Steelers to run the ball well because I think that'll set up the play action. Because when you look at the Steelers offense, they want to run the ball, try to run it efficiently, throw the ball in the flats, throw the ball up top on deep shots. You're going to get deep shots. You're going to get high volume running game. I hope you don't get a bunch of toss to Najee Harris. They gotta get that shit out the playbook. The toss to Najee is straight garbage. They got to get that shit out of here. But they have to run and they have to stay on schedule. I think you're going to see a lot of short passing stuff. I think you're going to see the volume of Russ's pass attempts increase, but those short dump off passes and stuff in the flat, I think those are going to serve as additional runs. They got to stay on schedule. You know, if you look at the stat sheet afterwards in this game and the Steelers have, 15 third down attempts, 14 third, they're running in mud. But I think for the best chance for them to win is to be able to run the ball successfully on early downs, which could then set up the play action passing game. Because the Ravens can be had on defense to deep passes and big plays and deep shots. They give up a ton of plays in the passing game. They're 30th in terms of dropback EPA and dropback success rate. They're 23rd, which means they can be had. They are giving up a ton of points, scoring 32, giving up 24. Thanks for those stats, Steelers freak. That's a lot of points. That is a lot of points. But when you have an offense that's as explosive as theirs, I mean, that point differential is still 8 points. And the Steelers' point differential is 7.7, which ranks fourth in the National Football League. I think this is it's critical in this game that the Steelers can run the football. I think this is going to be a game where there are going to be moments in the game where it looks like the Steelers can get their doors blown off, where it's going to look a little rough, where I think the offense will start out slow because we haven't really seen the offense start out cooking this year anyway. I think it's a case where the defense will have to keep them in the game early, get a couple of turnovers, maybe get some short field, set up some opportunities for that offense, but they're going to have to possess the ball in this game. I don't think you want the Ravens running 65 to 75 snaps. I think you got to run that many on a Steelers side, possess the ball, time of possession it, convert third downs. I think it's kind of a rope-a-dope game because if anyone could get blown out in this game, it's the Steelers. Just because Lamar Jackson's a freak of nature, their offense with Derrick Henry is freaky. They're averaging 32 points a game. I think they've scored 40 points 3 times this year. So if there's a blowout, it could happen to the Steelers. I think the Steelers, the success in this game again is in the running game. And I think also, like Steeler Freak said, I think you can frustrate Lamar with some blitz stuff. Although Lamar is handling the blitz much better, this is going to be a very tough game. And every game, in my opinion, in the National Football League is a test. But some tests are harder than others. And if you've got a multiple choice test with your book open and the teacher told you the answers, that's one kind of test. Shit, the ACT is a different kind of test. And this is the ACT. This is the ACT. And Steeler Freak is dropping some great points in this game. Speed Lamar up. If you can speed Lamar up, you make mistakes. One secret weapon that the Steelers have in this game as well is, did you guys notice that Jalen Daniels did not scramble much? And when he did, he got tackled immediately. I think the Steelers' superpower going into this game is they're a very good tackling team, and they are very good playing against quarterback scrambles. I think those two things will kind of, mess with the Ravens. Question for you guys, and I've been going back and forth in my head, is how many catches and yards will Deontay Johnson get? That's an interesting subplot to this game. Is Deontay Johnson, and is Patrick Queen going to knock out Chris Henry? That'll be interesting. Derrick Henry, excuse me. That'll be interesting. I want to see those little subplots play out. Queen versus Henry, Joey Porter Jr. against Deontay Johnson. That'll be awesome. And I know that Queen has a chip on his shoulder. But before I get to my prediction, make sure you like and subscribe to New Standard. Put up or shut up time. Steelers versus Ravens. Let's go, baby. What's up, Laura Top Life? Let's get to your predictions. Laura, hit me with a prediction. Hit me with a prediction in the chat on this game. Steeler Freak says 2 catches with minus 10 yards after catch. That's interesting. That's hilarious. He hasn't really been utilized that much. I would argue he's probably had under 15 targets in the last 2 games. And like Laura Top Life said, smash that damn like button. And as you come in, folks, smash the like button, baby. But I'm going to, and I've been going again. I've been going back and forth. And if you come back to the show and listen to the show later in the week, please give me your predictions. Laura Top Life, I didn't know you were a Ravens fan. 35-21 Ravens. That's definitely on the table. But I'm gonna pick the Steelers to win this game. I love the way they're playing right now. I love the way they're playing with Russ. I love the fact that they believe that they can win with Russ. I love that. And thank you, Laura, for the support, even though you are a Ravens fan. I am picking the Pittsburgh Steelers to defeat the Baltimore Ravens on a last-second field goal by Chris Boswell to beat the Ravens 31-28. I got 31-28. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game. If the Steelers can get the running game going, if the Steelers And Mark Tobin said, the ops are in the chat room. That's hilarious. If the Steelers can get the run game going, it bodes very well. If they can't run it well, they're going to get blown out. So look for it early. Look for it early in the game. If they can run it successfully on first or second down or on early downs, can they get into third and manageables? I do not want this young offensive line getting put into a position where they have to pass protect well on obvious passing situations. So I think the Steelers win the game 31-28 on a Chris Boswell field goal. And with that, we're going to conclude the program. And as always, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe. Go Steelers.